So recently we talked about how Joe Biden made the wrong decision on Afghanistan. He wants to keep us there even longer. There's no plan. There's no defined goal. It's just, hey, let's stay there over 20 years. So standard neoconservative stuff following right along with the establishment. Well, now this is just as bad, if not worse, because he's blowing the easiest foreign policy layup that he had. President Joe Biden's administration has rejected an Iranian offer to coordinate both countries' return to their nuclear deal commitments, arguing that the Islamic Republic must first reinstate the restrictions suspended in response to the U.S. having abandoned the agreement entirely nearly 3 years ago. The agreement, officially known as the JCPOA, was reached in 2015 by the U.S. and Iran alongside China, France, Germany, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Former President Donald Trump left the accord in 2018. Facing severe U.S. sanctions, Iran has begun enriching uranium beyond designated caps, something the Biden administration says is blocking a U.S. return to the deal. Quote, if Iran comes back into full compliance with its obligations under the JCPOA, the United States would do the same. The State Department spokesperson, Ned Price, told reporters at a press conference Tuesday. Let me explain to you how insane this is and why this is clearly wrong. The United States pulled out of the agreement. So there was an agreement that was negotiated. It was agreed to. All the parties got in. The United States violated the agreement, number one. That's a part that a lot of people don't talk about. But we violated the agreement because we also put sanctions on them when one of the main things we were supposed to do is not put any new sanctions on them. So we violated the agreement, and then we pulled out of the agreement and ripped it up. Now, what are you going to do in that situation if you're Iran? First of all, you're obviously not going to trust the United States of America. That's obvious. But of course, you're going to turn around and say, okay, we're going to go back to enriching uranium. Because the U.S. pulled out of the deal. They're not holding up their end of the bargain. So of course, it's a tit for tat. You say, okay, so we're going to go back to enriching uranium. Now for the United States to say, oh, we'll get back in it, but you need to stop enriching uranium. Why the hell should they trust you? Why the hell should they work with you? Why is it incumbent upon the people who didn't break the deal to have the gesture, the token gesture of good faith? No, it's incumbent upon the people who broke the deal to do a gesture of good faith. So you should get back in the deal, and then they will determine whether or not they want to get back in it. Because, it would be totally reasonable if the U.S. got back in it and then they were like, yeah, we're not going to get back in it. Why? Because why would they trust the U.S.? We've proven to them that an agreement that's made with us is not worth the paper it's written on. So our word means Dickie McGee's axe now. It means nothing. So there's no grappling and reckoning with normal human nature stuff in DC. It's just no, we're a bully. We say what we want, we do what we want, and we're going to push people around. So sure, we violated the agreement. We pulled out of the agreement. We ripped it up. But how about you get back in it? And then maybe I'll consider getting back in it after you do. I mean, what a sick joke. Guys, all Biden had to do, all he had to do was call up Iran, say, we're going to get back in the agreement. We understand that you're, we did you wrong. We pulled out of the agreement. The crazy guy's gone. I'm back in charge. I was one of the people, I was part of the administration that negotiated the agreement with you. So obviously I believe in it in good faith. So we're going to get back in it. And listen, we'll give you 6 months. You hop back in it within 6 months. We'll pretend like the past few years never even happened. That's all you had to do. By the way, every American would appreciate that. Why? Because it's moving towards peace. The American people are not going to be, oh my God, you're being a beta cuck to Iran. Does the Ayatollah now control Boise, Idaho? Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to think that. But honestly, this is how their stupid minds work. Because the default position is the neocon position in DC. The default position is we're the tough guy imperialist. We're the strong men. We get to do what we want. And so they always feel like they have to prove their toughness. They always feel like they have to prove that, we're just as strong as the Republicans, bro, us Democrats. And so they act in a way that is boneheaded and dumb and is counterproductive and is going to lead us to a place where there isn't peace. So, now, by the way, the other thing is, this is a part that's not discussed enough, Hassan Rouhani's the moderate. There's elections coming up soon in Iran. The moderates are going to get wiped out, and now you're going to get the hardliners elected in Iran. Why? Because the hardliners were proven correct. Because the hardliners were like, why would you do a deal with the great Satan America? They're just going to stab you in the back. And then the moderates did a deal with the great Satan America, and then we stabbed him in the back. So the hardliners are going to be like, told you. Not only are we right about this, we're right about everything. Vote for us. So you're going to have the hardliners take over, and then when you have hardliners in there, what happens? Well, we know, because we had our hardliners, Trump and the Republicans in there recently. What do? It's always be more bellicose, be more hawkish, puff your chest out, be a tough guy, say things to be like, to poke the adversary. So we're going to be in a horrendous position. Joe Biden had an opportunity here. It was the easiest foreign policy layup of his administration. He could have easily gotten back in it, and then full credit, they would have gotten back in the deal, and then you get full credit, Joe. Full credit. Like, that alone would have made an argument for the lesser evil voting. Seriously. Anybody who voted for Biden, if Biden were to do that, they could turn around and say, I was right about Iran. We're more likely to get peace with Iran, because one of Trump's worst foreign policy approaches was on Iran. Not only did he rip up the agreement, he added even more sanctions to the point where it's violating international law, and the International Criminal Court said we have to stop sanctioning the medicine going into that country because people are dying, civilians are dying. And you know what our response was? To pull out of the International Criminal Court and berate them and say, no, we're going to keep sanctioning the medicine going into Iran. So how many people are dying as a result of the sanctions on Iran that are similar to the ones we used to have on Iraq back in the 90s? So a lot of people are dying as a result of this. You had an opportunity to totally reverse course, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it. So the worst area so far for Biden has been foreign policy. Staying in Afghanistan and increasing the numbers, ripping up the deal. And now on Iran, blowing the easiest layup ever. I mean, the good news is it's unlikely that they're going to do like some sort of ground invasion or some shit, which was a distinct possibility with the Trump administration. But the bad news is now we're in this permanent limbo where we're in this permanent standoff. And the other thing is, yes, Israel has tremendous influence over Biden and the U.S. government. And we know Netanyahu despises Iran and would love to see some sort of regime change there. So it was so easy. You just get back in the deal and call it a day and show some sort of gesture of goodwill. And they'd be like, awesome. We're right back on track. And by the way, the rest of the international community would have appreciated that too, because Trump was the one who threw a wrench in everybody's plans. By the way, that's how you really change countries. You change them by altering the culture, and you alter the culture by getting a foothold in the country, and you get a foothold in the country by making peace and working in that direction. Instead, we're doing the opposite. So what a huge loss. What a tremendous mistake. And he deserves nothing but scorn for not immediately getting back in that deal.